What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know, including another WWE wrestler escapes a creepy stalker, WWE has fired announcer Tony Chimel, and many more. Peyton's push is dead, potential spoilers on the Aaliyah and Murphy romance storyline, The Undertaker's touching tribute to Paul Bearer, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's hit the intro and get straight into the first story. Our first story looks at WWE firing announcer Tony Chimel and many others. Now, we just got over Black Wednesday where the WWE fired over 30 staffers and wrestlers. Now, according to PW Insider, they've let even more go on Friday. One that includes WWE announcer Tony Chimel, who's been with the WWE since 1991. But PW Insider has said that there has been a lot more firings. There have been additional staff let go from World Wrestling Entertainment on Friday, most logistical and behind-the-scenes staff working out of Stamford, Connecticut. One source believed it was around 10 to 15 staffers in total. It's pretty terrible how WWE have treated such a long-time employee, just like they did with longtime referee Mike Chioda. Next up, another WWE wrestler escaping a stalker. It appears another dangerous situation was avoided as a stalker was reportedly stopped from breaking into former WWE superstar Paige's home. Paige's boyfriend tweeted pictures of the police taking someone away with the following message: "A stalker had the audacity to come to my door, got his ass handed to him until police arrived and saved the day. I will kill you. Please don't make me kill you." Paige also commented on the situation, tweeting, "Scariest thing ever. He told us symbols led him to us, but Ronnie got him in a hold until police got there. What the hell is wrong with people? Thank God Ronnie is around to protect our house." Jesus. This is the second serious case of a stalker trying to access a female performer's home. Last summer, a stalker allegedly entered Sonya Deville's home in order to kidnap her. The defendant was arrested and is currently in custody. Next up, a potential spoiler for the plans for Murphy and Aaliyah. The current romance storyline between Rey Mysterio's daughter Aaliyah and Seth Rollins' on-again, off-again henchman Murphy has become a major part of SmackDown, and Dave Meltzer thinks he knows where things are headed. Meltzer speculated in the recent Wrestling Observer, noting similarities between this storyline and a past one in Mexico's AAA promotion. The idea is that Rollins is secretly manipulating all this. The angle is one of those things that will keep people tuning in each week to watch it play out. I still see certain DNA in the writing of this angle because so much of it is reminiscent of a WWC angle where Conan, the top heel, was going to marry Stacey Colon, the sister of Eddie and Carly, and daughter of Carlos. That was a big deal one year in Puerto Rico. For what it's worth, at the end, Conan asked her to marry him, and eventually the family started to accept him, and then he turned on her, and he said he manipulated the situation from the start. Not to say that's how it turns out, but I know Rey has much input in this angle. Fans have also discussed the possibility of Aaliyah turning heel on her own family. But what do you think of this Blue Brand's latest storyline of two sweethearts, and can the WWE pull it off with a successful resolution? Next up, Keith Lee discusses adjusting to the main roster. Former NXT champion Keith Lee debuted on Raw on 24th August, making a big splash after defeating Randy Orton at Payback. However, how does Lee feel about the jump to Raw? The Limitless One told Sportsnet.ca, "I think that things can change so very quickly. I also think that's just being a part of wrestling as a whole, so it's not a huge difference. But the biggest difference is just getting to know people that I've either never wrestled or never met, and just get used to how things are and the way things work at Raw. At the end of the day, I was actually very fortunate because I had several friends on Raw, so I wasn't unsure or uncomfortable. I'm a fairly confident guy anyway, so when it comes to the transition, it felt very natural. Moving from NXT to the main roster can be a daunting experience, and as history has repeatedly shown, even the most successful NXT stars can find their careers fizzling out once they hit Raw or SmackDown. Do you think Keith Lee will become successful on Raw? Let us know in the comments down below." Next up, Renee Young fires back at Alberto Del Rio. Former WWE announcer Renee Young is taking exception to recent comments from former WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio that he was the victim during his relationship with former fiancée Paige. You may recall that Del Rio responded to allegations by his former fiancée Paige, where she hinted that Del Rio beat her and locked her up. Although Paige didn't come out and name Del Rio, it's believed that's who she was speaking about. Here's a timeline of the social media comments, beginning with TMZ Sports. Ex-WWE champ Alberto Del Rio is adamantly denying new allegations he routinely physically abused his ex-girlfriend Paige, insisting she was the aggressor during their tumultuous relationship. Ryan Satin, who worked with Paige on WWE Backstage, tweeted, "Maybe don't give this guy a platform to further torment one of his victims. Just a thought." Renee Paquette, aka Renee Young, who also worked with Paige in the WWE, added, "That dude can truly F all the way off." It looks like Paige's friends are coming to her support, and it's likely this won't be the end of this social media exchange. Next up, Jim Ross talks why Vince always tried to replace him. Jim Ross is considered by many to be the greatest wrestling announcer ever, with the WWE honouring his accomplishments with an induction into the 2007 Hall of Fame. Nevertheless, Vince McMahon tried to replace good old JR several times in his WWE stay, often leaving fans puzzled why McMahon would go out of his way to get rid of a major asset. During a recent episode of his podcast, Grillin' JR, Ross explained McMahon's reasoning. "The writing was all on the wall for me. Vince wanted me out. He wanted to go with young, pretty guys, sports center guys, Todd Grisham kind of guys. That's what he wanted, the look Vince was enamored with. Not me and Jerry Lawler. If they could have found someone to replace me that Vince was pleased with, then I wouldn't have got all those little extensions, because he wanted me out." Ross goes into details in his second memoir, Under the Black Hat, detailing McMahon's obsession with embarrassing him on air and constantly trying to replace him. During the podcast, Ross added, "I didn't have the TV look that McMahon Jones is for. I got to a certain point where I just had to stop worrying about it. I couldn't control it. In 2006, I learned a great lesson. Don't go crazy and worry about things you can't control." Although Ross ultimately exited the WWE, he was hired by All Elite Wrestling, becoming its lead announcer and lending credibility to the new wrestling promotion. Next up, Peyton's push is dead. It looks like Peyton Royce's much discussed push is over, as rumor has it she's been paired with Lacey Evans because Vince feels the women's division is sorely lacking in tag teams. While this is an obvious fact and a true one, the WWE's creative department is broken. It's funny in a sick way because the WWE took one of its best women's team and split them up, supposedly because they wanted to push Peyton as a single star. Dave Meltzer recently noted in last week's Wrestling Observer newsletter that they spent weeks trying to get Brooke and Rose over as a team and they've got no other teams. They are trying to make Evans and Royce a team now after Vince breaking up Royce's other team so he could make Royce a single, pushing that for a few weeks and then changing his mind. Vince McMahon's disdain for tag teams and whimsical booking has led him to splitting up a number of tag teams with no follow-up, whether it's the Iconics or Heavy Machinery. Next up, The Undertaker's touching tribute to Paul Bearer. Undertaker fans know that Paul Bearer was instrumental in The Undertaker's development as a character, as The Undertaker rarely spoke in the first few years of his career, helping to evoke the wrestler's character. Now the WWE Network is releasing The Mortician, the story of Paul Bearer, a documentary covering Bearer's work with The Undertaker, and in it, The Undertaker remembers his manager and friend discussing their years working together. He also posted a touching tribute to Bearer on Twitter. Paul Bearer was an iconic manager in front of and behind the curtain and was a great friend and great person in my life. I hope this shows just a portion of the man he was and the role he played in helping make The Undertaker so successful. And finally, WWE's tribute to Alex Trebek. Last but not least, as the world mourns the loss of beloved Jeopardy host Alex Trebek, who recently lost his courageous fight against pancreatic cancer, the WWE paid tribute to him with the following press release. WWE is saddened to learn that Alex Trebek has passed away at the age of 80. The game show legend became an icon as he hosted Jeopardy for 36 years, and he traversed the WWE universe in the process, playing a prominent role at WrestleMania 7. Trebek served as a backstage interviewer and was a guest ring announcer for the WWE Championship clash between Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter. A 7-time Emmy winner for Outstanding Game Show Host, Trebek hosted several other shows including The Wizard of Oz, Double Dare, and more. WWE extends its condolences to Trebek's family, friends, and fans. We also like to send our condolences to Mr. Trebek's friends and family. But there you have it guys, the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.